As pro-choice protesters upset over the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion overturning Roe v. Wade march, picket, and protest outside the homes of conservative Supreme Court justices, one of the things I have been most upset about in connection with this has been the people releasing their home addresses, which I think is so dangerous. Now a federal judge whose son was shot and killed by a disgruntled lawyer who showed up on the family's doorstep is speaking out. New Jersey U.S. District Judge Esther Salas is fighting for more privacy protections for federal judges. It's been just shy of 2 years since Judge Salas' son Daniel was killed when he answered the door. The gunman had posed as a FedEx driver and was looking for Judge Salas. She says her son Daniel died trying to protect his parents. Daniel's father, Mark, was standing behind him when the shooter opened fire. Mark was shot 3 times and critically wounded, but survived. By the time Salas raced to the door, the shooter was gone, and her son and husband were bleeding from bullet wounds. She held her son. The gunman was later found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He'd kept a detailed dossier of private information on Judge Salas, including where she lived. Since then, Judge Salas has been lobbying lawmakers to pass the Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act, which would, quote, shield the personally identifiable information of federal judges and their immediate family who share their residence, including home addresses, social security numbers, contact information, tax records, and other data. Salas's bill made it through the Senate Judiciary Committee late last year, but just stalled on the floor of the Senate today for the second time. Senator Rand Paul has led the opposition, saying that he doesn't want to support it unless it applies to members of Congress as well.
So I think these protections actually are good protections. I agree with the spirit of the bill. I agree with the letter of the bill. But really, it should be judicial folks protected as well as Congress.
I regret that in the goal to protect ourselves, we can't protect others.
Meanwhile, following those demonstrations outside the homes of Chief Justice John Roberts and Justices Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Samuel Alito, the Senate this week passed a bipartisan bill providing round-the-clock security to the immediate family members of the Supreme Court justices. Judge Esther Salas joins us now. Judge, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Good evening, Mr. Abrams. Thank you for having me on.
Now, before I ask you about the bill, what did you think when you saw the protest outside the justices' homes?
You know, obviously, my intention has always been and will always be to focus on the Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act. But I think that we have to understand that there is a place for public debate, and I believe that place is in the public forum. Outside residences of judges, I think is ill-advised. And I quite frankly know that, you know, we can look at the ability for individuals to speak their mind. That's what this country's all about. But I think we have to look at the hard realities. And the hard realities are that things are unpredictable. Look at my situation. One would have never guessed that a lawyer, a litigant, would amass such information and plan to assassinate me. I would have never believed that possible before July 19, 2020, but it is possible. And there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that get angry with judges, and we need to protect judges.
You know, there's a federal law on the books that would seem to allow for the protesters to be arrested. Do you think that they should be?
You know, listen, I want to be very careful in weighing in or not weighing in on this particular issue. This is an issue that is, quite frankly, separate and apart from what I think the companion issue is and the broader issue is. And that is the issue of protecting the federal judiciary. The irony, Mr. Abrams, the irony in all this is, had Congress passed the Daniel Anderl bill months ago, the justices' addresses, like all judges' home addresses, would have been sealed. And this emergent legislation that they're trying to pass and these issues, I think, would be a non-issue. But we have seen, unfortunately, congressional leaders, not all of them, certainly not my home state senators, and the bipartisan support that we have on this bill, but a few of our leaders have decided that if it's not them, it's no one at all.
Yeah, let's talk about the bill. I mean, the legislation makes a lot of sense to me. As I've said, the most offensive thing to me in connection with what's happened here was the releasing of the justices' home addresses, which I think in and of itself is an enormous problem. Are you surprised by the opposition it's received? I mean, this idea that they won't pass it unless it also applies to us. I mean, it's got to apply to us as well. It's surprising to me.
You know what? I'm sad. I'm really sad because I think that we all, congressional leaders take an oath, just like judges take an oath. And we take an oath to defend the Constitution. We take an oath to defend democracy. And sometimes you have to do what's right, even if you're not benefiting. Yeah. And we expect our leaders to do that. We expect our leaders to do what's right for the United States of America, not just what's in it for me. And that's a sad fact. And I think today is a very sad day in America.
The bill protecting Supreme Court justices, which just passed the Senate, allows federal marshals to protect the justices and their families. But you've pointed out that the bill doesn't actually provide for the protection of their personal information.
Nope, it does not. It does not. And the fact of the matter is that, there are what I see two groups of opposition sort of forming. The opposition that says, me too, we want it, and if we don't get in, we're not going to support it. Or those that say judges shouldn't get preferential treatment and get something that we all don't get. And that's what those are now what I think we're beginning to see emerging. And I want to remind the American people that judicial officers are in a very unique position. We hear cases on a daily basis, and we rule on cases that are profoundly personal to the litigants involved. That creates emotion. That creates what we now have seen at times severe animosity towards the judicial officer. And that puts the judge in a unique position that the judge or the federal judges across this nation need to be looked at, and our jobs, what we're doing, we need to obviously have consideration that we take an oath. But part of that oath is not to stand literally at the firing line of democracy.
And I completely agree with you. Talk to us about Daniel a little bit. I'd like to put up his picture as you talk about him.
Daniel was the light of our lives. He was our only child. Mark and I had 4 miscarriages trying to grow our family. He is a blessing and a gift from God. And, losing him was probably the hardest thing that either of us will ever have to endure. But Mr. Abrams, this tragedy doesn't have to happen again. I just want to remind the American people that judicial officers have paid with, have done our job, and we have paid with our lives. There have been many judges that have not been getting, airtime. And I want to say their names: Duranko, Vance, Woods, Roll. Judge Lefkow lost in 2005 her husband and her mother. I lost my only child. I want to ask the American people, how many more people have to die before we realize that democracy is in trouble, before we realize that our rule of law is really teetering here? And I ask the American people, and I ask our members of Congress to do what's right,
Judge Esther Salas, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.